So welcome back, guys. We are continuing with 5.5. We left with from 5.4 in the previous video. If you haven't watched that previous video, just go through it so you can see the build-up that we had from 5.1 until 5.4. Now we are at 5.5. I'll put the link in the description as well. But then 5.5 tells us that we must determine the coordinates of W, right? Which is a point on F, our graph of F, which is our parabola, right? Such that the average gradient between T and W is 1. So T is here, and then we have F, and they tell us that F is a point, or W, is a point on F, right? So when they say the average gradient is basically what is known as M. So M is equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the average gradient between 2 points. And we are told that between T and W, this average gradient is 1, right? But then the y2 and y1 and x2 and x1 represents the points. So let's just substitute in the point of T, because T is the point that we have, one of the points that we have, right? So we'll have the y value of T, which is 10, minus y. So this y represents the y value of W. We can't put it because we do not know what it is. Then 9 is the x value of T, and minus x is the x value of W. But still we don't know. That's what we are looking for. And we know that all of this gives us 1, right? So we have an equation which has a fraction. Let's just multiply both sides by 9 minus x to rationalize it, right? To make it linear. So we'll have 10 minus y is equals to 9 minus x. From here, what you can see is that we just have to isolate y. And I will tell you the reason why we are isolating y. So we'll have minus y is equals to 9 minus x minus 10, right? So minus y gives us 9 minus 10 is negative 1 minus x. So we just want y. So we have to divide by negative 1 on both sides. And we will have that our y is equals to x plus 1. This now gives us a linear function. This is the form. This is a linear function in the form of y equals to mx plus c, all from just substituting everything from the information that was given. So please do not forget that we were told that W, which is the point we are looking for, that it is a point on F, which is the parabola, right? So our parabola is also in terms of, or it was given in terms of x squared minus 7x minus 8. So this represents now a linear function, and this represents a quadratic function, and both of them are equal to y, right? So if both of these graphs are equal to y, that means they are equal. So we can equate them from here. We will have x squared minus 7x minus 8, which will be equals to x plus 1, right? So let's just rationalize everything and put like terms together. Then we will have x squared minus 7x, then we take this x this side, minus 8 minus 1, and it'll just give us equals to 0. Let's just put everything correctly. Negative 7x minus x gives us negative 8, and negative 8 minus 1 gives us negative 9. Then from here we have a quadratic, a trinomial, So from here we just have to factorize and find our factors, right? So we'll have x here and x here. plus and minus. So we are looking for factors of 9, whereby if we subtract them, they will give us 8, and that's easy. It's just 9 and 1. So 9 times 1 will give us 9, and 9 minus 1 will give us 8. And the bigger factor will have to go with this sign, the coefficient of x. The sign of the coefficient of x is the negative. So the bigger number or the bigger factor is 9, and we'll have 1 here. So just to finish everything out, we'll have x is equals to 1, or x is equals to 9. But then the thing about 9 is that we already know that the point that has an x coordinate of 9 is t, right? So we can't use this. We are looking for, remember that we are looking for a point which is w. So now our x coordinate of w will be -1, right? So we are left with finding the y coordinate. I'm sorry for writing it like this. Let me put it properly, but this is a -1. Don't mind my handwriting, guys. -1, right? So us having -1 and y, for us to find the other coordinate, we just have to punch in the x coordinate in our formula, which is f of x is equals to x squared minus 7x minus 8, right? So we are looking for f of -1. It will be -1 all squared minus 7 times -1 minus 8. And we have -1 squared will just give us 1. -7 times -1 will give us +7 minus 8. Then 1 plus 7 gives us 8 minus 8. Now 8 minus 8 gives us 0. So we end up finding that our point of w is -1 and 0, right? So there are definitely more ways to kill this cat. As in mathematics, there's more than one way to kill a cat, meaning there's more than one way to answer a question. But in my honest opinion, I feel like this is the easiest one, that I can explain to you guys. I hope that it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, just tell me in the comments section below, and we will see what we can do to get you sorted out, right? So moving to the last question now. We have 5,6, which says, this is my favorite question. I know that each and every mathematics student loves this question. And when I say love, I mean they love this question. And if by now you do not understand what's going on with me, I'm being sarcastic, guys. So it says, determine the values of x for which f of x multiplied. So the dots just means multiplied by g of x will be negative, right? So f of x multiplied by g of x will be negative. So here we'll need some color. So that's why I need that color. First of all, let's just do something like this. Let me do this table. I'll have f of x on this side. I'll have g of x on this side. So for me to multiply two numbers and to get a negative, I must either have a positive number multiplied by a negative number, then I'll get a negative, or a negative number multiplied by a positive number, and I'll get a negative. Those are the only two ways that I can get, that. So the thing about these questions, guys, is that as soon as, most cases, a lot of people will just say, we'll take the formula for f of x and formula for g of x, the equations, for f of x and g of x, and multiply them out. And then as soon as you do that, you are just, losing yourself even more, because it will not help in any way. Questions like these need you to use the graph to assist you, which is why I feel like which is the reason why I feel they gave us the graph, right? So that we can use it to answer the last question. Okay. So f of x multiplied by g of x must be 0. So one thing that you must know is that when I say f of x, or when we are told about f of x, these represents the y values. And I said it in my previous video that where I was doing question 4, that a function or a graph or a function, yes, is made up of y values. I will say this again. A function is made up of y values. Yes, a point has 2 coordinates, which is the x and y, but a function is made up of y values. That's why now the equations are given in terms of g of x, or y is equals to. It might either be y is equals to, or f of x is equals to, or g of x is equals to, right? So continuing. So basically, to simplify this question, we are looking for y values of x, of f, that can be multiplied with the y values of g and will end up giving me a negative number. That's basically what everything says here. That's what it says. And we only have 2 conditions now. So I can have positive y values of f. Let me put my y here. I can have positive y values of f multiplied by negative y values of g, so that I get negative values or a negative product. Or I might have negative y values of f multiplied by positive y values of g, which will now give me a negative product. So looking at my graph now, I'll start with the first one, and I'll use different color now to explain it. So I'm looking for positive y values of f, right? Where do I have positive y values of f? I have positive y values of f wherever my graph of f is above my x-axis, right? So let me just color it in. Let me just color these points in. Wherever my graph is above the x-axis, that's where I have positive y values of f. And then what should I do as well? Positive y values of f multiplied by negative y values of g. Where do I have negative y values of g? So I'll use the very same color to show, right? Negative y values of g. I'll have negative y values of g below my x-axis, right? So here, that's where I have that. And then let's go to the other one, which is negative y values of f. Where will I have negative y values of f? You guessed it correctly, below my x-axis, right? So let me use a different color to show that below my x-axis I have negative y values of f, and then the negative y values of f must be multiplied by positive y values of g, right? So where I have my positive y values of g is above my x-axis. So I have everything now. Now we can move into the answering, right? But then the other part now, let me just get into it. We will solve that other part when we get there. So I'm looking for positive y values of f to be multiplied by negative y values of g. So meaning I'm looking at wherever I colored with green. So from positive y values now of f, and negative y values of g. I have positive y values of f here. This side have positive y values of f, and I have negative y values of g. So by using a ruler, I'll use it. So what I have here is basically, I can just see that going to the left hand side until basically this point, from the point of P now, from my point of P until now, where? Because look at my f is going upwards, meaning it's going to positive infinity, and my g is also going downwards, meaning it's going to negative infinity. It won't change from there. So from P until negative infinity, that's when I'll have positive y values of f and negative y values of g, right? Because as soon as I move from P and go now and increase my numbers, my graph of f becomes negative, and I'm looking for what? Positive values of f, so that I can pair them with negative values of g, right? So your first answer is there, that basically from P until negative infinity, right? So it will be, you must answer them in terms of x now. That's the thing. So from P until negative infinity. So from P, you'll have something like x is an element of negative infinity until P, but we'll answer it properly, because what do we have to do from now is get the values of P, right? And yeah, we will get those. Now we are still analyzing. Then is there anywhere else that I can have positive y values of f multiplied by negative y values of g? Unfortunately not. We are done now. So we have satisfied the first condition. Let's look for the next condition, whereby I have negative values of f, which I must pair them with positive y values of g, right? I'll use a different color even to show. So what I have from here now, I have my f to be negative here, everywhere. From P until R, my f is negative, right? My y values of f are negative. And then where do I have positive values of g? From V now, which is the x-intercept of who? Of my g, right? So I have positive values this side. So let's see. I have negative values of f and I have negative values of g. That won't work, because negative times negative will give me a positive until I get to V. So from V, that's when I start having negative values. Negative values of f, yes, and positive values of g. Until where? Until my R now. Because from R, my values for f become positive, right? So from G until R, that's where I satisfy the second condition. So your answer will be something like x must be between R and V, right? So now it's just a matter of us finding the values now. And as you can see, P and R are the x-intercepts of f, and then V is the x-intercept of g, right? So let's start there. So whenever I'm looking for my x-intercept, my y value should be 0. So I'll have x squared minus 7x minus 8, and it will give me 0, right? So it's just a matter of me factorizing here. I have a plus and a minus. I'm looking for factors of 8, whereby if I subtract them, they'll give me 7. And it's just 8 times 1, which will be 8. And 8 minus 1 will be 7. And the bigger factor must go with negative. So 8 will be with negative and 1 will be with the positive. So I'll have x is equals to negative 1 or x is equals to 8, right? So now let's pair. Let's put who is the negative, who is the positive. I have my origin here. Going right, I have positive x values. Going left, I have negative x values on my x-axis, right? So R now is the one with 8 and 0. And then automatically P will have negative 1 and 0. Right. I feel like I'm making a mistake here. But then, yeah, let's just go. Let's just continue. Okay, no, so I am actually correct. So there's no mistake, right? So I got my values for R. So I have 8 and 0. Let me just put it in my graph. And then for P, I have negative 1 and 0, right? And then let's look for my x-intercept of G. So I'll have y must be 0. So I'll have 2x minus 8 is equals to 0. And I'll have 2x is equals to 8. And I'll have divided by 2 on both sides. So 8 divided by 2 will give me a 4. So my value for V will be 4 and 0. Let's just put it in here, 4 and 0. That's my value for V. So before I jump straight into the answers, for finding the x-intercepts first and calculating them, you actually get marks for it, right? So now let's go again. I am looking for positive y values of f, whereby I can pair them with negative y values of G. And we have figured out that it will start from P, right? From P going to negative infinity. That's when I will have positive values of f. And if I multiply them with negative values of G, that's where I get negative products, right? Then going forward, I have negative values of G, negative values of f and negative values of G, and they give me positives. But then from V now, I have positive values of G and negative values of f. So they give me a negative product until where? Until R, whereby now my f becomes positive. And if I have positive y values, let me just put it here. If I have positive y values of G and positive y values of f, I'll just have a positive product, right? So let's just put it in, the correct way, because you can analyze everything here, but then your answers should also be correct, right? Let's go. I have the first one was x must now be an element of negative infinity, right? So from negative infinity until negative 1. And then look at the way I'm using my brackets. I'm using curved brackets to show that these numbers are not included, because the inequality that was used was just less than, not equals to. Or I can just say x must just be less than negative 1, right? So for my other one, I'll have x must be, as easiest that I just put my x in between, because it's between P, V and R, right? So my x must be less than 8 but then greater than 4, right? Yes, x must be less than 8 and greater than 4, and that's all, right? Or I can just say x will be an element of 4 and 8. Then I have my answers. I hope I explained everything well. I hope I explained everything to your understanding. That is the end of today's, revision lesson or whatever. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Just please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. If you have, welcome back. Thank you. We are revising this side. Just tell your friends who are in grade 12 and are doing mathematics, just tell them that we are revising this side. And if you are looking for this paper that I'm working on, everything will be in the description. Just look at the previous videos as well so that you can get up to date. We are working towards the final, which is getting closer and closer. So yes, thank you guys. We'll meet in another video tomorrow. Thank you.